values through artisanal industrial. I'm not sure how much you know about biochar, but basically two big ways or pathways to produce biochar, to get biochar. And I'm going to introduce two pathways in order to achieve the removals that we need today. So the agenda will be setting the stage, will be give some kind of general. Then Robert will say something about the role of biochar is and showcase stories and let's setting this biochar is social. All know what biochar is. Yes. Okay, good. We can start from that. So the first point we are all in agreement that soil improving. Soil that improves fertility, okay, given such conditions. But this is supported by a robust evidence. And this is the starting point. All biochar started here from these observations and scientific studies. Yet, something happened in 2018. IPCC acknowledged biochar as a carbon removal solution. What does it mean? It means that it was widely acknowledged that for biochar that starts from waste biomass and goes into the soil, that biochar is also rich in carbon, in stable carbon, and can reduce the carbon dioxide, which is in the atmosphere. So it can be a removal solution. And since then, we have industries have been started net zero, but all the industries that are working on these to exploit this aspect. That's why we are here. Okay. So three main conditions we need to do to get our ecosystem benefits, our value from biochar. The first one is the feedstock, the supply of the waste biomass streams that has sustainable, and it is important because starting with the feedstock, we know a lot of things on biochar. So we need to be able to understand how much biochar we have, how it is our, biomass we have, how this biomass is it scattered in the landscape, is it available in aggregated form, is it wet, how much water quantity is in this biomass, is it an annual, is not available year-round, available so who stores this? How is the thing around that? These are all questions to understand. They are important because the biomass gives the carbon content that we can get out of our biochar. So this is the first point we need to address. The second one is the production technology. This is extremely important because this technology can affect the permanence issue of our biosphere. And we know that the permanence is a key aspect when we want to achieve carbon removal, as Axel can tell you a little bit later. We need to understand reactor pyrolysis is, slash pyrolysis is, low pyrolysis. There are so different processes bio. And then ultimately, is there a market? When we are able to our biochar, we will not be able to get any carbon without putting the biochar somewhere on the soil. So that's the first point. These are all questions that industry need to consider very carefully. If we think about biochar as a circular solution, we need to something like that. Okay, we start from the waste biomass streams. That biomass is not exactly ready to process, but anyway, whatever we can dry, we can cut, chop, do whatever we need. We pyrogasify. We get the energy out of that. Maybe the energy, we can recover that energy, but it is not, maybe it's not clean. The thing has to be cleaned up, or maybe it can be recovered within the process. So the energy is one of the outputs of our system. And let's move to the other thing that we get out of this process, biochar. I use the plural, biochars, and I will tell you about it tomorrow. So we get our biochar out of this pyrolysis process, and this biochar ultimately goes to the soil. But what happens here in the middle is the real magic of the industry today. So we can just simplify in this way. We do have something that we can use our biochar in a nutrient recycling circle, where we can capture the nutrients that are available in the landscape or blend the biochar with some fertilizers. We know that biochar alone can improve soils, can improve. We know that biochar used together with fertilizers, can improve crop yield by 22%. This is the results of metadata studies. And so this is a tremendous improvement of soil productivity. Other use farms, and in this case, our biochar will deliver other ecosystem services. For instance, on methane emissions, methane emissions. We are not talking about methane in this panel, but it's really interesting. The bedding and the feeding of animals with biochar can help that. It can be used as water filtration, remediation. And this is the last important thing. We can use our biochar in the these guys down there will explain that this stuff here is steel. Well, it's not steel. It's done by rocks, and it features like steel. That is something happening today. Built environment. Think about how the built environment can integrate biochar material. Huge improvements that can be done with biochar. So here is why I prefer to call biochars plural, okay? Because there are source feedstock that we use, process different, can feature different biochars. Biochar is a family. Keep this in mind. This is a very nice slide that has been produced by the UK Biochar Research Center, and they're working on this. There are two main pathways, industrial and they work carbon removal. So let's explore a little bit more how it works. But first of all, let's talk about quality. Quality is an important part of our biochar. But sometimes we need to understand what we refer to when we speak about quality. Quality is contextual. Why? Because for CDR markets, quality primarily refers to stability, carbon content, and permanence of biochar. So when we are in this framework and we talk about how biochar is a good biochar, we refer to a biochar that has a highly carbon content and highly permanent in the soil. For soil applications, it's another thing. So a good biochar is a good stuff that improves the yield, meaning pH balance, porosity, mineral content. They are all elements that gives us the the idea of how good is our biochar. They're not competitive things. They need to stay together across. So, and regardless of the scale of our operation, artisanal or industrial, the project must deliver what they claim. Okay? So, which are the production methods? The artisanal production, it is often decentralized, low-tech, and community-driven. It prioritizes self-consumption for local agricultural benefits. And there are co-benefits for the community, including women empowerment, which is an important feature, and regenerative agriculture. It's suitable for corporate buyers, those that value community-based carbon projects. This could be good pathways. If we move to industrial production, we have larger scale units and participate to buy as a primary ground driver. This production can be more standardized, so that's why there's like this more. And the corporate looking for scalable, measurable primary impact. Whatever, you need to be able to monitor and track your biochar operation and where your biochar comes from. So systems to monitor are vital. Which definitions aligns better with your ESG? All these so I'm really pleased to introduce you our first guest, Robert Oberlin. Robert is a researcher and is a major source of information to understand carbon removal methods, voluntary carbon removals today. And we are pleased to have him with us today. Robert will understand the role that biochar is playing today in the voluntary. So Robert, can you hear me? It's yours, Robert.
Seems like my video was not. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you. You're kind of frozen.
As I was going to start talking, sure.
Okay, we see the slides. Thank you, Robert.
So I'm going to talk about the CDR market, the market for durable carbon removal and biochar in it. So CDR.com is a data source that tracks purchases and sales of all types of durable CDR and more. And Biochar is an impact but also supports carbon removal biochar.
Robert, can you please be close to the microphone?
Yeah, sure. Do you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good. So this space has had a rapid development with many carbon removal methods now being tested out in the real world. Some of them on a very early stage, kind of going from the lab, like direct active capture. There's a bit more mature, already carbon at scale, like Biochar. And this early a rapid development starting in 2021 with the first purchases. And it's mostly that are buying these is to use towards their own target or because they want to support the early market to help it grow, kind of broaden the playing field. And as we can see on this graph, the purchases for future delivery of tons have increased very rapidly with a high growth on year. So looking at this, you can see that the market got off to a very good start. However, most of it, the volume that's contracted with Microsoft is quite dominant by one buyer. But 2025 tips us the other years, mainly thanks to some very large. And also looking at deliveries, the first chart was the contract of tons. we look at the carbon removal that's already in the ground, that's also a healthy growth, only 3/4. So the end of the year should also be significantly higher than 2024. So we think that the rate of growth is also it's in line. Of course, the tons delivered is much lower than the previous slide, which was the tons purchased. Because when you're developing new technologies, starting new projects, that will take some time to remove the carbon. And many of these deals have been signed for 10 years. So it's natural that deliveries will be slow. Total, market and take out Microsoft, you see that there's a log scale, so you don't see of this, but they're dominating. And if you look at outside of Microsoft, it's a little bit with some growth, but not growing as fast as what we want. So we definitely want more companies to get involved in the durable CDR market because it's to reach their net zero targets. If they don't start buying now, we would have the capacity to meet all the carbon removal needs of the future. So these purchasers' numbers need to go up, and we want to see more deals being made. So it's not so dependent on the biggest buyer. If you look at what are the types of carbon removal methods that are being bought, we see that these biomass-based approaches using photosynthesis to capture the carbon is dominating, particularly multi-elements of delivery from bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, but also biochar, biomass storage, and then other methods that are smaller. But BECCS is by far the biggest when it comes to the number of tons. But if you look at the most common method when it comes to new buyers and what method has the most purchasers, then we see that biochar completely dominates. It's by far the most common method. Transact, of course, smaller volume, starting out like hundreds of tons maybe, or probably new buyers are using biochar as the entry point into the CDR ecosystem. It's not so strange because biochar can deliver now. It has co-benefits, and it's also the cheapest, or among the cheapest, together with biomass direct storage of these durable CDR methods. So it's significantly cheaper than all the others. And it's my assessment that the high cost rules have had early stage customers that are willing to support kick cost. The pool of buyers that are willing to pay very high hundreds of tons per ton is probably quite thin. And especially new buyers and the next tranche of removal buyers will likely be a bit more price sensitive, which leads me to believe that low-cost methods like biochar is going to probably dominate in the future, in the next couple of years, when it comes to people that enter the CDR market. If we zoom in a bit on biochar, we see that the purchase volume here is increased, and we have some large-scale deals that this is encompassing also deliveries of moved tons on that we can see on the CD. To see who are the ones that bought most biochar, and Microsoft dominates our category as well, not the least. Deals with X-Man, that we'll hear more of this later, but other tech companies like Google, we have finance actors like Swedish Bank, SEB, JP Morgan Chase, insurance companies here, and BCG, a consulting company. And this reflects also what we see in the durable CDR market. It's mostly high profit, low emission companies that are entering and buying, which is not the hard to abate companies have high costs in transitioning their own value chain and reducing their own emissions. And it's this type of companies that is the beachhead market for new technologies like carbon removal. And it's far from fully tapped. There are many other low emission companies that could buy CDR that haven't started to do so. And as we can see here, what's the average volume when buying CDR for what kind of deals? If we take out Microsoft, you see that the average per purchasers in the hundreds of tons, average per deal is of 200 tons, and the median is 73 tons. So it's not huge deals. Many companies are trialing, making a first purchase to see how it works. And of course, many of the biochar providers are also having relatively small facilities of delivering maybe a couple thousand tons. That is really good, so on. So it also fits with the size of early startups. Suppliers are led by Exomat here by far when it comes to both tons sold and tons delivered, but also Varaha in India, here, South Africa, Abraham, and then American ones as well. But we have hundreds of biochar companies that have sold, that are that have sold, but we have hundreds of biochar companies that want to sell carbon credits, and quite a few that have sold and delivered. My fits with the VC firm Counteract that did kind of a deep dive biochar and the economics of it, biochar providers that are going to make it, and the kind of process. And I think that you need to have this sweet spot of where either you produce high quality biochar, sell the credits, and get well paid for all the co-products, of course the physical char, but also the heat or other co-products. In some cases, low cost production location where you can produce those credits cheaply, and you don't have as much pressure to. What wouldn't work is if you are in a high cost location and only rely on it. So the companies that would be in the lower quality here, the ones that will have hard time. Because we do see that in Europe and US, biochar providers sell credits at the same as providers in the global south. They also sell their physical biochar in many cases at a higher price and have more income from that. And yeah, as I said, we have supported many companies, two of them on the screen today, Husk and Biochar. The 10 biochar companies that we supported have all in the global south, due to the high benefits, increasing incomes of low-income farmers, increasing crop yields, and building up the poor soils that are in many places. That's one of the key reasons that we chose these 10 suppliers. The 10th one is not here, but it's bamboo with carboneers. And companies can both donate to a charitable fund or buy carbon credits. And CDR.fi have a lot more data. So if you're interested in the carbon removal ecosystem and want to understand more about who's selling what, and what's the prices and when is it delivered and whatnot, you can go to the website, which the name is the website, but there's also a partner portal where you can log in and explore a lot. So, and I think some time for questions, I think, is all right.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. I think someone can have some questions. Yes.
Thank you, Lucia. I'm a chemist, and I have a question. I don't quite get the concept. You showed it's a nice circular loop. And if it's circular loop, you don't remove carbon from the system. I understand this depends on time scales, but can you explain to me where happens in the process?
There were the biochar. Biochar contains the carbon. The biochar has a fraction of carbon that is that when you put it into the scale, it stays there for scale to the climate change. So the biochar works. The biochar stores the carbon in their the plants and the leaves and so on. The normal cycle is that carbon into the atmosphere. With biochar, you fix the carbon through pyrolysis, and that carbon is not released anymore. It stays down. So that's how you remove the carbon. So, is there any questions for Robert? I have a question, Robert, for you. What's the average price of carbon removal of carbon certificate with biochar? An average price?
Sure, $2. But yeah, it
Excuse me.
differs a little bit between different.
Stay close to the microphone, please.
It's around $150 for biochar. It is.
Thank you. Any other question? Please.
Thanks so much. I'm Alyssa and I work as an ALC specialist for carbon projects. And before that, I work with Indian farmers to develop artisanal biochar projects. So my country is around artisanal biochar. Like project type, I think it's a good idea. We use the residues from the farmers and then we do a circular economies. But I found on the market there is certain buyers. People saying that artisanal biochar is not of higher quality, the MRV is too tough, and that it cannot wear great on quality. For further thinking, artisanal biochar is not on quality, and also the difficult pattern. If we do natural-based solutions, the social benefits is the same as artisanal biochar, and nature-based solution can be cheaper. So they found artisanal biochar is not investable. Curious to know like what we need to do to educate the industry about all this.
Good question. Robert, what would you suggest? How can we improve our capacity to educate buyers on all the ecosystem values that a biochar system can deliver?
Was before, and we have great ways of doing it. But there's still some things that we can make even more watertight, tracking the biochar final application, for example, so that we know that it ends up in the soil and so on. But we inform about the science that is there, be honest about the things that could go wrong, about how we make sure that we fill those gaps. And I think by on a pathway of getting more and more established as we see more and more articles and hear questions. And I think credibility requires.
Thank you. I have a question, Robin, for you. You are a superstar.
Hello, my name is Sakura. I'm from a company called Towing. So we are a micro company using the biochar as the carrier and microbial. So my question is actually we work with a lot of FMCG companies, like for example like a Coca-Cola or those companies to transform your supply. The concept of carbon incentive. So I was wondering about what's your observation, Robert, about I think we're talking about carbon credit. But how is that? Because we have a lot of projects about the carbon incentive. So rather than generating credits, we directly remove the scope 3 reduction. And most of the companies are interested in, of our clients is interested in incentive. So how?
You see that quite true, especially in the ag, are interested in biochar being applied or produced in fields where they're buying the commodities from, like cotton or food commodities. So that's definitely something that makes it easier, I think, to buy biochar when you can connect it directly to your own supply chain. And if you have flag targets and an SPI target, then you could account for that as an emission. You emissions in the flag sector, so that makes it more investable, but also a stronger story. So definitely see that interest.
Hi, my name is Kalyani and I'm a practitioner for the last 15 plus years. And I'm also working with the biochar project development. So I just wanted to know, when you are analyzing the projects, biochar projects, so there are this voluntary, there is this mandatory, there is also this regulatory frameworks. From your perspective, what do you think is the best option? Are you a mixture of SBTI, which is voluntary SFDR, which is a regulatory or the regional. How do you actually, like, which one, what would be your advice when it comes to the frameworks adaptation? Thank you.
That's the option for what? I couldn't really hear it.
So, my name is Kalyani.
Sorry, I think there was a teaching away. If you can just repeat the last part of the question, the best option for.
Can you hear me now? Okay, so when it comes to ESG frameworks adaptation, within Biochar, do you hear that? Yeah? Which one do you think is the most like complex or less complex? For example, we have a regulatory, we have a voluntary, and also mandatory frameworks. For example, GRI, and we also have a regulation like SLPR and the ones like SEBI. Yeah? How do you actually see that the most complex when it comes to adapting to ESG safeguards for the biochar projects? So, is it clear?
I mean, currently it's all voluntary. Companies buy because they want to use it to reach targets or to stuff, but it's not partly compliant yet. I mean, SBTI is not the best choice if you want to use the carbon removal because it's you can't account now against your targets. ISO standard that's coming out, I think, during it's more permissible for those use cases, and then we see that Biochar will be included in the EU, maybe included in the ETS as well as a consequence. Then we would be part of that. I think the people who produce Biochar, would no matter what the buyer. I want to hand over to the stars doing the.
Okay, thank you very much for your the Q&A session. If you want to stay with us, that will be great. Otherwise, we will move on with our panel. So, yes, I'm really glad to have you here. 4 panelists that are amazing leaders of this industry. We have Axel Renaud, CEO and co-founder of Net Zero, which is a French with biochar operations in Africa and in Brazil. And Louise Backlund from Ask, co-founder and chairwoman, and they produce biochar from rice and delivering benefits to the community. We have Ines Sarabautes. She's based in Kenya, and Ines is working with smallholder farmers and biochar. And we do have the leader of CDR Biochar is with Francesco Guglielmi, and I'm sure they are order of magnitude bigger than the other leaderboards in CDR Believer. So let's go to introduce companies himself and company before moving to the panel session. Please, Francesco, the floor is yours. Francesco, please check your microphone. We don't hear you. Okay, let's move to Eloise. Are you ready? Can you?
So, we have the time for the introduction, right? It's just introductory remarks and presentation, right?
Yes.
Or it's just right now. Sorry, I'm a bit confused.
Do you want to show some slides?
Oh yeah. Okay. Right away. Okay, so let me introduce you I mean, I know a lot of you know already about Exomat, but I will be really quick. So thank you everyone. Thanks and the CDR30 for this space, making COP, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Francesco Guglielmi, Head of Sales and Marketing at Exomat Green. So basically, thanks to this trajectory we have, really good customer service. And the base problem for the people that know us is this one. This is the problem where is Bolivia's largest, also Bolivia's largest exporter, and in all of the years in the market we have this scenario. We have that are operating in the country. They start processing the wood. They start to fill up with residues, and then since they don't have space to process, they just build a hole. They make a fire pit and they burn. So this was the base problem that we're
Can you hear? Okay, Francesco is solving. We can the other panel back to Francesco later. Things are getting better. Hello, are you ready? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
good.
absolutely.
Welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for inviting us to share our story. My name is, and can you see? Just checking.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So my name is Eloise Buckland. I'm the co-founder and chairwoman of Husk. And our vision is to accelerate the transition to more regenerative agriculture through transforming excess biomass, in the first instance rice husk, into biochar and then into biochar-based fertilizers. And we do this really for three reasons. The first and foremost is to regenerate soils. Given that 1/3 of the world's soils are currently degraded through the excess use of synthetic fertilizer, restoration is at the heart of what we do. Obviously, our second aim is sequester carbon, so we are in this for the long-term carbon removal, which Lucy has already explained. And thirdly is to support the livelihoods of the farmers in the global south, who ultimately are the hardest hit by climate change, exacerbated, that threaten not only crops but their livelihoods and food security. We have long-term partnerships, excess biomass. So you can see one of our installations in Cambodia. The green is a rice husk that they use for their purposes. And this is often burnt to be removed or dumped in the rivers, or in some cases used in the brick industry and burnt in open air, causing toxic fumes, very harmful to health. So what we do is we process that rice husk using pyrolysis technology that is by Carbon Standards International and by CA. We then transform that into biochar-based products. So you can see in the picture here, we start with the rice husk, we turn that into biochar, we go one step further and turn that biochar-based fertilizers. Those fertilizers we then work with agricultural cooperatives and input distributors, and they ultimately sell those to smallholder farmers, and you can see an example of one of our end customers here. So the fertilizers that ultimately reach our farmers look and feel like others, and serve to improve the soils, to increase the yields, and ultimately improve the net revenue of farmers by lowering their input costs. Biochar to improve the soil, there's less synthetic needed. 6 years in 2019 in Cambodia is removed carbon are not as big as those 2,800 hectares of soil. we believe at least 6,000 farmers have benefited from our products. But really, I think perhaps what I've really learned over is that you need to have a farmer-first approach. When we started selling biochar alone back in 2019, this was bought by NGOs who were happy to support farmers and give them biochar for free. The farmers then needed to mix that, which involved labour costs that worked in the soil to increase their yields and increase their resilience. It was a bit of a pain, and we discovered that it would be difficult to sell and hard to make this commercially viable because farmers really need some labour costs, an aging smallholder farmer population. The farmers that we're working with in the Global South need something in a bag that is firstly ready. So the biochar is mixed with other nutrients that each crop needs. And over the years, we've had now around 6 years of R&D on developing our biochar-based fertilizers to really suit the specific needs of specific crops and specific stages of crop. So a rice crop will need over at the beginning prepared, then in the flowering stage we'll need a certain nutrient. The later stage of the plant will need another. So we adapted our biochar-based fertilizers to the needs of farmers, and not only the formulations but also the. So in some cases, Southeast Asia and many other countries using drones, and we also highly believe in the transition to regenerative agriculture, which means immediately moving to organic, but slowly reducing the use of synthetic fertilizers. And the global agri-food system, I think, currently responsible for around 20% and nitrogen fertilizer is 2% of global emissions. So the aim of getting biochar in the soil to enable the soil to do its work and reduce the leaching and reduce the emissions to air of that nitrogen through more effective soil management is really the business we're in. So we're very much about more than carbon removal. And I think as an industry, if we can reduce the global emissions from fertilizer use through in fertilizer, we will go way beyond what we could even dream of just in terms of carbon removal. So that's why we're in the business of building soil, carbon, and improving lives. We are in Cambodia for the last 6 years, in Vietnam for the last 2 years, and I'm very excited about extending beyond Southeast Asia in the future. Very much for listening. I hope I did time and look forward to your questions.
No, you're perfect. Francesco, are you back with us? Can you hear us? Are you connected? Okay, great.
Sorry, technical difficulty.
Yes. We have. So
Okay,
you can start from where you were. Okay, the floor is yours, Francesco.
Okay, so that you know about the one that you last saw.
On the second slide.
Okay, it was okay. So just give me a second.
We have seen the video with all the.
Okay.
Just move from there.
Okay, great. So, just a second. Okay. So, basically, what we do is that we collect bioresidues. These residues.
Excuse me. We don't see anything here.
The second, probably there is some lag right now with the connection. You should see it probably.
No, not yet. But go ahead. Move it. Go ahead.
Okay, there we are. Okay, so what we do is we collect biomass from the sustainable forestry industry. We import them, then we the indigenous communities and medium-sized farming operators, we do it for free. We do not sell the biochar. So our project is now located in Concepcion, Ribera Alta. We have 2 factories. Right now we recently expanded them. So Concepcion went from having a capacity of removing 600 100,000 tons of CO2 per year to 120,000 per year. That has passed from 60 also to 140,000 tons per year. We are currently building the Guarayos plant, which will be the largest biochar plant, the largest biochar plant on Earth. So that factory will produce around 360,000 tons that of CO2. I mean, it will remove from the atmosphere 360,000 tons. We have scouted a couple of 2 places for further 2 factories. Right now, we have an installed capacity of roughly 240,000 tons, and we're gonna scale up by 2027 to remove 1 million tons per year. So that is gonna generate over 500,000 tons of biochar. It's gonna take 5 facilities, and it's gonna generate 2,500 green tech jobs and bring all the co-benefits that the projects usually to the collect by residues. We have atmosphere 200,000 tons of CO2. We're currently the world's largest supplier of CDR in terms of delivery, and our mission is to reach the megaton. We are, some very important part is the co-benefits we bring. Besides cleaning the air in this town where we operate, we generate jobs, and the program which entails support in health, in agriculture, in culture, and urban transformations. We operate in towns currently in Bolivia, and our operations impact over 250,000 people one way or another. So
This is
and we
amazing.
have fertilized.
Please,
Thank you.
go ahead. Go ahead.
For a final point, we have fertilized so far 20,000 acres. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. It's amazing. The scale of operations is really impressive. So, Ines, you have your 3 minutes presentation. Go ahead with your Kenya biochar dream.
Thank you so much, Lucia and IBI. Really grateful. And going after Francesco, thinking big but starting small in our case. This is Mes. I'm from Barcelona. I've been obsessed with soil benefits and outdoor sports, and I have 50 bottles of soil collection. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Biochar. I'm also part of the committee of Carbon Removal Kenya, where I'm based. I'm an engineer and architect by background. However, I've been working in renewable energy transition and strategic consulting at Deloitte and McKinsey. So 3 years ago, sorry, let me share the slides really quickly. 3 years ago, we came to Kenya with our MBA business school, and we're studying ESG. And after studying the state for a little bit longer, and it became super clear that soil degradation. So I guess we're all here. We agree that we're facing the biggest enemy, that is climate change. And this global reality, though, is affecting sooner in the global in farming. So in Africa, clients supply shortage. While corporates and government discuss ambitions, this government gets available solutions that are available that can work and that can go to scale until now. That we have biochar in town. So yeah, I think Lucia already well explained what bio is for the audience. Material and can store carbon. In biochar, we are using it for leaving a legacy for soil fertility and increasing farmers' profits, which is a really win-win. And by storing carbon in soils, we literally turn the left picture into the right one. And if they happen to be farm soils, we just make farmers' profits increase. So this is our job. Why it became our from building the industry, it still feels like that today. I'm pretty sure my peers can relate. that later escalated and we got the patent on. We got a lot of learning on over 1,000 different biocombinations, which we were designing the best developments, monitoring and removal as the key drivers. We then launched the first industrial biochar plant in and we got over 2 years of learning within production, in which we now redefined our tech design at scale. We recently secured funding from Nimbus and Atmosphere, and we are now 3 months away from increasing 10x production capacity.
Thank
Some
you.
parcels last year production. Okay, this is few of the partners. I thought I had a minute.
Yes,
But
we
yeah,
will catch up with
everybody.
during the conversation, because we have Axel here in person, and Axel, just say something about net zero and the journey you're doing. And I also ask you, can you please tell us biochar is different from the other technologies? I mean, biochar is part of the big family, and we have sister technologies. They are all different, but what is really the point for biochar? How it is different?
I'll start talking about biochar and then I'll talk about net zero. Very happy to be here. I mean, biochar is the central technology for carbon removal. We've heard from Robert, but actually if you look the other side, you see biochar right in the middle. It's not by chance that biochar is right in the middle. Biochar is a technology that actually is the oldest man-made carbon removal technology. Biochar was invented here in Brazil, empirically, thousands of years ago, to improve agriculture. Those of you know in the Amazon region, this is proto-biochar. And so this is a 1,000-year-old technology, and if we believe in the Lindy effect, some of you might know about it, the Lindy effect says that if something has been around for a long time, it will continue to be around for a long time. So biochar has been around for thousands of years and will continue to be around for thousands of years. Not sure that everything that is on the wall here will be around 1,000 years from now. So that's the different thing about biochar. Apart from representing 90% of the volumes of carbon removal and being the cheapest long-term carbon removal solution. I'm kind of paraphrasing what Robert was saying. So this is not a technology among many, it's the technology. And it is the solution for a decade to come. Then maybe we have other technologies that can go at scale at reasonable cost. But today, there's no substitutes to biochar. So what we are doing at Net Zero is we are trying, we're doing things a bit different from the others, and I guess everyone would say that they're doing it a bit different. We started from the beginning trying to build a scalable model. So how do you bring this technology that is by nature very decentralized, that has its best use cases in rural areas of the global south? How do you make it scalable? And you make it by yourself, technology, and actually small technology by the core R&D company, design the system, design the MRV solution, integrated solution. Okay, how do you run a business model highly profitable, marginally profitable, highly profitable? You need lots of profits to attract capital. If you want to scale biochar at the gigaton scale, you need billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions. So it needs to be a very profitable business. And then you need to make it replicable and find a way for people to deploy a solution. So we've wrapped our solution in a French model that is a one-stop shop for people who have access to biomass and who need biochar. That is that run that quickly and delivers the whole chain. So not only produce and then you have to strap ahead to say how much buy it and how do we just commercialize the carbon credit. We bring the food to McDonald's, a solution for hamburger production and same thing for net zero. So that's hear about.
Thank you, thank you. This is clear and interesting. It's true. I mean, it's fascinating of our story. What's happening in the community is that everyone has a different story to tell about what's biochar. So that impacts. What are the impacts that your activities are generating? And I would love to start from the big company here. You are really impressive in the volumes that you are delivering, and your plans is really amazing. So, what is in your operations?
So yes, we can see that this journey that we started the first year removing 30,000 tons, then 60. Now that we have reached the 200,000 tons, the impacts are beginning to be very, very on the ground. We have reduced the number of fires in sawmills by almost 80%, by almost 90%. We have as I was saying, we have fertilized over 20,000 hectares. We have conducted at least experiments of field trials, and we can say now with a certainty that the average of the yield increase rate that has been reflected in the agriculture of these areas has been around 12% across the board in several crops. And of course, we cannot leave behind all the day-old benefits from which we have been able to reduce between 80 and 90% cases of acute respiratory illnesses in these areas, conjunctivitis cases, and we're beginning to measure a lot of the SDG impacts on the ground, which I think they're now coming into play. We've all heard the last comments in the industry that it's also about human welfare. So this is also visible, and we're documenting it as we scale.
Thank you. It's clear. Biochar, of course, it deals with carbon dioxide removals, and these are leading this industry. They're important markets. Biochar is not only this year. Eloise, what about you? What key best capture the impact that Husk is generating?
So our impact is threefold, as you can see on the strap line. So in terms of soil, we estimate that we've regenerated 4,700 hectares. And how we measure our soil improvement is, biochar in my mind works in three ways. One is the soil structure, so it improves the structure, so it's more aerated if it's clay soil, it has more structure if it's sandy, and both of these for or drought. The resilience of farmers through the better structure in the soil, but also the soil chemistry. So a lot of the soils we work with are we had significant increases in pH of the soil chemistry and nutrient uptake, which means ultimately farmers need to use less synthetic fertilizers, which really, I can't emphasize how that is a co-benefit that such an impact in terms of climate change by reducing the nitrogen loss through poor soils. And then the soil biology, we've done a lot of work on the increased microbial activity in the soil. Just recently had some results just this week on 150% greater earthworm density in the soils on some of the trials we've done on coffee recently. So soil structure, soil chemistry, soil biology are ways we're measuring the impact of the improvements in the soil. And then in terms of livelihoods, 6 farmers and we've measured as our fertilizers are going who are challenging to reach, and we're in a very competitive environment where ultimately we're competing with NPK with cheap synthetic fertilizers and encouraging a transition to more regenerative practices to invest in the soil. So that's how we measure our impact. We've created 60 jobs in Cambodia and Vietnam, and everyone on this call, our ambition is that this is a scalable replicable model. And we're now in our first country replication building in Vietnam, what we've piloted in Cambodia, and looking forward to working in other countries. But alone has 10 million farmers, so we do feel there's a huge opportunity for increasing impacts there. I will let the others speak. I know we're all short of time.
Thank you very much, Helen. It's amazing. I think Ines can echo what you were sharing with us. Ines, what about you? Co-benefits and impacts in Kenya?
So far, we've reduced 2,700 tons of waste that would have been otherwise burned, and we transformed them in over 900 tons of biochar that restores of farmland soils and 1,300 tons of CO2. We are with the economic impact of biochar generated. We're measuring a lot in the before and after biochar application. We have right now more than 20 demo trials roll over across 10 different crops. I've mentioned earlier on the 10,000 on the 1,000 combination of biochars database that we've created. We are also measuring the farmers' impacts. So far, 4,000 farmers at 66% higher profits, with consistently 25% increase. Saved 14,000 liters of water, which is super important. The country struggles with, and we created a team of 30 biostorers in our first industrial plant in Kenya, in which I'm excited that 80% of the leadership remain women. Other achievements were super proud of. Investors of the board and our team, we got 8 million carbon removal agreements, and then got Cross certified, which was a big milestone for us. It proves that this is available, it's credible and to scale. And we submitted a carbon policy to the government of Kenya, as we're lobbying a lot of CBR from the country. I'm really excited for what's ahead in Kenya and in the biochar space.
Thank you. I think what you're doing is amazing. It's not only the technology, people, and when you are trying to introduce something which is new, come on, it's so tough. I mean, you go to a farmer and you say, hey, use this stuff because it's better. It's the real challenge I see. So let's move to challenges and success. If you were thinking, oh my God, what I have done so far, I'm really proud of, what would be this? Eloise, what would you do this? I'm really proud of.
I'm really proud of fellow biochar fans, I hope resonate, but with developing a granulated organo-mineral biochar blend specifically for rice crops, and then it was specifically for coffee, and specifically for high-value agriculture, fruit and vegetables. So when we
well, we have a backup plan. You're here.
So I'm lucky 3D option. Actually, to fully take advantage of the 3D thing, my colleagues can't do that. We've been talking about biochar, but I guess you know what it is. But this is basically, it's written in French. Carbon that was floating, CO2 that was floating over coffee fields. So when we talk about biochar, that's the stuff. So do you sing or talk about the challenges of the thing?
I want you to address some questions of the poets. I mean, what are your challenges right now?
I think, like for many of our colleagues, funding is the challenge today. Because although biochar has proven to be the dominant technology and the winning technology for removal, there is a massive asset misallocation. And so a lot of money has gone to kind of 10 billion tons per year in 20. 10 billion tons. This is more than the oil and gas combined sector exports every year. You see the amount of assets that has been deployed to do that. We need to deploy it in 25 years. The clock is. It's not about. It's also building scale, and we heard, Isomax trying to build scale. They are the largest in volume. They are the largest in number of plants. We need, but we are minuscule. We need to raise to gigatons. So funding is the big problem. Is how do we basically mobilize at scale that is needed to start with what is already proven, already available, and that has all the co-benefits that we've heard about.
Thank you for your 3D presenter. So, Eloise, thank you. I will pose the same question to Francesco. Francesco, what are the main successes? I mean, it's clear to me. You have a list of successes, but from your angle, I think what's the main thing that you will mention about excellence, about
talk about challenges and successes at Exoma Green. Well, one of the major challenges was start the project, because we started very early on, and then we had to learn everything about scaling in a market that it was very new. So that first learning had really tough, kind of pioneering in it, and the challenge we're facing right now is to rapidly scale the mechanism, and that entails a whole lot of movement, financing, how to optimize the machines ever more to produce while keep controlling and balancing out the quality of the.
And I moved to Ines. Ines, I know it's not easy. It's with lots of good intention. What are the barriers that facing, and what would be useful to have to boost your capacity grow?
I do see 4 key barriers to be overcome in the next few years. The first one, which I think that success we just got cut off, Paris funding, have been deployed towards DAG, 3.5 billion alone public funding, yet delivering the majority of durable renewables today. And so as we get getting ready, we expect capital to be a bit rebalanced toward near-term variable terms that can support us all here. Which kudos, Eloise, on your progress here, is R&D biochar application scale level. So field trials are strong. They only have like 2 years. To add super site specific, crop specific, need time. By essence, takes time. And I think it's the same with biochar construction, which we need like years of evidence before scaling them up. Lab scale level at university kind of scale. Then the third one, which I'm super annoyed, is the lab certification process. So I don't know how it's for the rest, but Global South has obviously all the potential of scaling biochar carbon removal due to the amount of rich feedstocks with diverse impacts. Yet the certification process remains Europe-US focus. They have super long lead times. And this involves extra costs. In our case, I'm putting my luggage with secondary flying back to Spain, and we've built a lab just to make it under the 3-month certification guidelines. So I think the last time I checked, there were only 9 accredited labs for these standards, mostly concentrated in Germany and the US. And I hope they open one in Africa, hopefully in Kenya. But I think Africa has to be front. As one we Robert mentioned before, is a carbon biosolution, which is a From the insight that we got, Microsoft accounted for a very large share of hydroelectric in 20 months. But yeah, we need to create this network of effect of getting more buyers entering into the market to diversify a bit so that we can get scalability, because deploying the machines takes a while as much. There is CapEx intensive business, and machines is what it takes to move something.
Thank you, Ines. Willing to start a lab and that's a good deal. So, Heloise,
I'm down for doing that. I've done the research, and I mean, I cannot open that myself, obviously. Yeah, I've done the research. If anybody's interested.
Anything to add to what Ines has just shared with us? What are the challenges in the years that you
echo what my colleagues have said. Obviously, critical for nascent sector. Maybe just to add a couple, three new points. The market adoption of the biochar. So it was very useful. Robert explained the two business models. Either you have a biomass, you can give the biochar for free and encourage farmers or communities to mix it with their own to apply it to the soils. This is one model. The other model, if you don't have the biomass available for free, biochar, because you can't survive on carbon alone. Biochar means competing with chemical industry who's been around since the revolution and has billions of and decades of R&D, and so that is a very competitive market, and therefore one of the barriers really is market adoption. We need farmers to biochar to gain the carbon credits to finance the operation. So it's a vicious cycle to be broken, and of course funding and R&D to support that is necessary. Another barrier I would say is the availability of the technology. As you know, to Ines, who's developed their own pyrolysis systems from scratch. At the moment, the technology is much more mature in the US, and for the global south to have so we're all ultimately developing our own to scale up, more affordable and more scalable in the global south, and it's capex heavy. So this is millions, if not billions, of dollars that need to go into that. And then maybe just one would be, we need a price of carbon. So at the moment, it's very arbitrary, the funding that is going to our projects to fund carbon removal, because we don't really know what is the cost of climate change, what is the cost of putting an extra ton of CO2 in the atmosphere, how is that the social cost. And I think so. This is where the research community really comes. If we could more accurately measure carbon and not removing, it would be easier to put a fairer price on carbon removal. It would be easier for companies like us to survive and thrive in what is such a much needed solution. But there's still a lot of uncertainty of what is the real climate change, what is the real cost of carbon, and therefore what is the price of carbon removal. It's not, even though it's cheaper than a lot of the other carbon removal technologies that Robert was mentioning, making biochar, making high quality, certified is not that cheap, and so there's work to be done on the accounting, in my view.
What are the costs? That's a good point. Which is relevant to achieve carbon credits permanence, the issue of carbon. That the biochar, in order to be able to generate carbon removals, to stay there as long as possible in a time frame relevant to biochar can affect. And how do you manage these permanence issues? Francisco, you are the biggest biochar producer, crop producer, generating more crops from biochar. So how do you manage this issue?
So its issue, I mean, this permanence. Well, there's some few important pointers that we need to address when we talk about permanence. First of all, biochar business, you need to have homogeneous. That is very important, and there's so many variables to ensure biochar. It's a hyperreactive temperature. Then to you need. It's ideal to have like a centralized process. I know there's some decentralized processes that have to manage really well, but it's so much easier if you have one centralized process which is gonna deposit batches of biochar that you can easily control in your lab. And feedstock and high paralysis temperatures, you would get a long permanence, and that's what we have with wood. Wood is an excellent material, and we have done. I know they're a little bit controversial, but they are. We have done the reflectancy test, and we have content of 99.6 of the carbon present in our back of the of our carbon present in biochar permanent. So it's a test that it still has to be widely adopted, and it's some trains of thought that they adopted, some others not. That's there. And for the side of the product itself, but to ensure additional permanence on the ground, what we do is that, and that's an advantage we have. So we source from, and then we keep the biochar away for free, 50-kilometer radius around the plant. So this allows us to monitor with our DMR in the soil. So we ensure, and we only when we have verified visually and with the carbon synthesis sign with a GPS location, so we can have that assurance to our clients that the biochar has been into the soil, and then we can issue carbon credit. So that's kind of the permit that we assurance and permanence we do with Exxon and Green. So it's a you have.
Yes, the permanence is strictly related to the standard you apply to the certificate project process you choose. So Ines, you have gone through this process. How do you manage? What do you measure in order to do that permanence achieved?
Yes, we look into it in two ways. The first one is the full process, which follows the measurement reporting verification from the biomass gathering that has sustainable biomass is homogenized. Then in the processing, more variables are found in the technology, and then controlling the temperature. And the last mile delivery, which then allocates the carbon into a specific Google Map coordination, which is the biochar itself. We've done and we keep on doing in-house testing. So we do test as much as we can from the machines that we have here. The carbon content, the HC ratio, and the OC ratio. There's this famous matrix of the durability tranches, depending if you have an HC ratio below 0.4 and an OC ratio below 0.5. And so if you want to need a year plus, and then 5% carbon content, which is also pretty high. So altogether, it's moving us towards a high durability and permanence. And then finally, we started to measure really recently. It's on the side of food, so how carbon is stored. None of us is going to live here more than 100 years, more than 1,000. But we're measuring carbon over different, and then do some correlation over years to come, so that we can at least one guarantee that 85% of the carbon content is stored in the soil matrix.
Thank you. I just want to remind to our participants that at IBI what we do is to spread out knowledge. of a possible potential so we have just 2 minutes. So I want answer to address the question to which directions the future of biochar? What do you expect in the next 5 to 10 years?
If we're taking a 5 to 10 year horizon, first of all, biochar will remain the dominant CDR technology. And so that's good news. Biochar will need to move to much more scale, of course, we discussed that, but much more professionalism. We talked about permanence, and there are some debates on whether biochar is permanent over hundreds of years or over millions of years. But it's a dirty secret, biochar. Biochar is carbon. It's carbon that is waiting to be burnt. And so I think we need collectively as an industry to work on making sure that the traceability, and traceability is irreversible. If someone figures out actually biochar has the same structure as mineral coal, and so someone, why don't I use it? In the atmosphere.
I guess why it is required that the biochar goes.
Exactly. So you need to have this traceability that improved a lot. So I think bio on an upward trend, more technology to get better products, better homogeneity, better stability, to lower costs, to improve the safety of operations, and to basically make sure the MRV is totally bulletproof. If biochar solves these problems, then biochar will be, of course, the first technology. Will remain, hopefully, the lowest cost carbon removal solution. So there's a very bright future. From the current state to gigaton industry. The gigaton industry must professionalize, optimize, put more technology, put much more traceability, so that it becomes very, I'd say, bulletproof at scale. And that's complicated because biochar is not decentralized. It's easy to control, the big, say, DAC plants, for example, to use another carbon removal technology. And so I think that's the challenge with biochar. If we solve it collectively as an industry, that we should will become a gigaton solution with what we're doing today. This is the very first baby steps. 5 years ago did not exist. 5 years is sizable time. That's the age of net zero. But it's just the beginning. The issue is we don't have. We have the next 5 years.
I joined I fell in love with biochar. It was 20 years ago. Like this existed. So, anyways, please, your last word. We have just 30 seconds. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. I think like any systemic change that envisage, we need the absolute involvement of multiple stakeholders. So I'm thinking EU regulations on nitrates is key to stimulate the fertilizer industry to use more carbon in other issues should be on board. Researchers, MRV is absolutely critical. So it's going to multiple stakeholders to really create this systemic change. And I think the first indicators are absolutely positive. We are the lowest cost and the highest in demand in terms of carbon removal. So the scene is set, and it's up to us, everyone on this panel, in this room, and those who watch, to make this happen. It really is, I think, in the words of Catherine Draper, is safe, sustainable, and shovel-ready solution to climate change. So let's go for it.
Thank you very much, Eloise, Francesco, Ines, Axel, for featuring your stories, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for being here at our pavilion. This is a great achievement for us. This is the first time that not only Biochar, but all the CDR solutions are featured in this way. So I want to thank you also very much, this fantastic lady there, that she made all of these things happen together. Of course, and thank you also to my team. And see you in the next meeting. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.